Everybody, welcome to Stop and Smell the Roses. I'm Michelle Yu. I'm your host. This is brought to you by MyRoses. Definitely, this is the hair that is left over from, I feel like, 6.5 days of only watching race replays from last week. Holy cannoli, was there a lot going on. So, excuse everything up here. We're just going to focus on everything that's out here. Normally I just do this kind of off the fly on the top of my head. I have half a page, a full page. I've even got another page full of notes because so much happened this last week. So thanks for joining me. Hopefully you've had a pee break. You might need a snack, definitely a cocktail or a glass of water because there was a lot going on. I'm going to start with maybe the least important thing. I feel like maybe I should start with the most important thing, huh? We'll go kind of best to worst. I don't know. All right, well, whatever. Go to the UAE Derby. All right, everyone flip forward to that. Rebels Romance looked really good, in my opinion, winning that race for Charlie Appleby. After the race, Charlie goes, well, I know it's Kentucky Derby points, but we're going to take a stab at the Dubai World Cup in 2022, and we're going to work our way backward from that. I mean, I felt like for a long time, Godolphin's main thing was trying to win the Kentucky Derby, and now they're loaded stateside. They've got horses across the world that are good enough, and they're like, I don't know. Maybe Dubai World Cup next year. I feel like a run the Derby probably we would not preclude you from running in the World Cup next year. But, Charlie Appleby is an absolute genius. So I guess whatever he says kind of goes. He raced really wide throughout to kind of avoid the kickback situation for him. That's obviously not going to happen if he runs in the Kentucky Derby because 20 horses are going to be going postward. And what happens if he draws the outside? I mean, he's definitely not going to run around the outside rail, right? I don't think he wants to run 2 miles around there. Should he come? I don't know. I mean, let's be honest. The UAE Derby has not exactly been the number one stepping stone to winning the Kentucky Derby, although it has given us several fan favorites, right? Lonnie, Mendelssohn, my personal favorite, Regal Ransom, Toasted New York, who we all thought was really fun and cool, Thunder Snow, obviously, probably the most watched participant type horse in the Kentucky Derby. In case you haven't seen that, he broke out of the gates and he buck all down the stretch. So do we get memorable horses? Yes. Do they win the race? No. So I'm not really sure how that plays out, just except for the fact that it'd be fun to get to see him come over and see what kind of antics he could get into. The other thing, though, is the horse that was the runner-up, Panadol, actually was late supplemented into the Triple Crown for Salem Bengadier, so he's going to be coming to the Kentucky Derby. So at least we get a horse out of there, although he was 5 lengths behind Rebels Romance. So do with it what you will. That is my recap. It should be a fun instance to get to watch foreign horses come over because this is a very big race for us. But overall, the impact is not as great as you might think. Also, on the maybe lesser important scale was the Jeff Ruby Stakes. That's Steaks, just in case you aren't paying attention. It is not Stake, which is, okay, all that. So Like the King was the winner. Now, it was supposed to be Tarantino, everyone thought, right? He was heavily favored, but in the gate, he was like, I'm going to wiggle. And then they broke and he kind of went this way. And Florent was like, whoa, we'll just hang out in the back of the pack. So they traveled around. They got the 1.125 workout, but he wasn't anywhere close to contention the entire time. So he's going to kind of regroup and do something else. So the winner was Like the King for Wesley Ward. No shocker there, right? Wesley Ward wins a ton of races over at Turfway Park. Did I love his out? Nah, not really. I felt like the field wasn't a great field. He was kind of wide throughout down the lane. There was some bumping, and that kind of led him to be prevalent at the end. I didn't love the way he won. I think he moves like a turf horse. He doesn't really move like a dirt horse. His action is more daisy cuttery. He never really got down extended. I'm not even entirely sure he loved the synthetic out there. So despite his name, Like the King, I don't think he's close to Animal Kingdom, who used that race as a springboard to his Kentucky Derby. So I'm going to say in the pretender if he ends up in the Kentucky Derby starting gate. The probably most prevalent race of the weekend was the Grade 1 Florida Derby. That was a pretty good race, right? I mean, it was a big full field. I would say maybe 5 horses probably didn't necessarily belong in there. They're just maiden breakers or whatnot. Obviously, everyone was disappointed with the King of Miami, Greatest Honor, not being able to win. He got this really funky trip, right? He wasn't super sharp at the break. And then all of a sudden, this is where Steve, the really great editor, comes in, right? He rushes up along the inside and then he's like buried there. And Jose has to like tap on the brakes. It's like all of a sudden, what are you doing? This is a horse that in his last race, I feel like was nowhere to be found until the final like 3 jumps and he just poured it on. I was very confused with this ride, bringing him up along the inside, having this early move, having to stop, and then looking for another seam. Yuck. That was a yucky situation for me. So if people are going to say that, like, you know, he could have had another chance, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I don't think anyone's going to be necessarily off his bandwagon. Although coming down the stretch, he had plenty of times. I don't know if it was just he used his umph early and he only has 1 umph. I mean, I just don't know what to do. So I was kind of like one of these, like, I don't know if I like you all that much. Love Shug. Just don't know if I like that horse. I'm going to keep him in the, I don't know if I like that horse that much. And I'm sure he'll be like a huge buzz Derby week, right? Also, let's see. Known Agenda was the winner. Isn't that funny how I started with the horse that wasn't the winner instead of the winner? He got a lovely trip on the other hand, right? He was also on the rail, but he was a lot closer. He was sitting about 3rd, just kind of cruising along. When he was ready to have his run, all of a sudden, there was space for him. So he went out. You know,
now the bad thing about this horse is, have you ever tried to draw like a straight line down a piece of paper? You know how it never looks straight? It's like, that's what this horse looked like in the stretch. I felt like he went a little left, a little bit to the right. You know, he had that nice momentum, so he was still able to win, but he was definitely not straight and strong, which I feel like is something that you are not going to necessarily be able to fix in 6 weeks until the Kentucky Derby. But, you know, it is Todd Pletcher, so there's a possibility that this could all be fixed. And if so, that makes him a big player, I think, to a lot of people, because this horse hasn't had a lot of starts. He's been showing steady improvement. He's a perfect 2 for 2 since adding blinkers. And his pedigree really says she should appreciate the distance of the Derby. So this horse has a lot of upside for a horse that was maybe not as well known. See what I did there? Known going into the Florida Derby. And by the way, he's already beaten Greatest Honor once, so that form line kind of holds up. The other horse I want to talk about in there was Soup and Sandwich, because who doesn't love a good soup and sandwich? Mark Casse already on the scene with Helium, who we talked about a few weeks back. This horse, I felt like, did so much of the dirty work, right? He sat right on the outside. He pressed the pace. This is only his 3rd career start, by the way. His first time going this long. And not only did he go out there, set the tempo, or assisted in setting the tempo, but he hung around there late. When Known Agenda was out, you know, trailing out and slapping high fives down the outside rail, Soup and Sandwich is still along the inside. He didn't swap leads, which I've seen him not do in the morning as well, so it's just kind of him. You know, but can you fix that? Sure, this is only his, you know, 3rd career start. But 6 weeks to grow up, again, that's a big ask for him. And Mark Casse did say that this horse got a little bit nervous shipping from his, you know, above Florida training center down to Hallandale Beach. And he said he'll run better out of his stall at Churchill. But are there going to be fans at Churchill? I mean, if this horse got nervous shipping, I'm just scared of what's going to happen if there are fans at Churchill, because if you've been to Derby, you know there's fans and they yell and they throw things and they cheer and they're like, yeah, when the horses walk over this way and that way. So, I mean, maybe it's just hauling he didn't like and he'll be cool, like with the fans, as long as he's walking out of his own stall. But that does give me some pause if you're looking at Soup and Sandwich. Plus, let's be honest, even though Soup and Sandwich probably the best thing that you can possibly eat and it's everyone's lunch favorite, this is not a name that sounds like a Kentucky Derby winner. And I know that sounds a little ridiculous to say, but it's kind of true, right? When you look at the whole list of Kentucky Derby winners, you're not like, oh, it's Secretariat and American Pharaoh and Soup and Sandwich. I just don't see it. So that was kind of the big recap from last week. If you guys are still with me, heck yeah, you're troopers. But you 3 over there, I see you 3 trying to leave, or maybe you left already. Coming up this week, going to be another massive week, starting on the West Coast, or the Best Coast. It's going to be the Santa Anita Derby, which was going to have 3 horses in it with Life is Good and then 2 other horses to pick up checks. But with Life is Good on the sidelines, all of a sudden, there's a field of 10 going postward. This is going to be an awesome race. So we have Medina Spirit, who everyone knows I love. I'm on the bandwagon, right? In fact, his bandwagon still just Toot toots, the Medina Spirit bandwagon. So I still am a huge fan of Medina Spirit. Bob Baffert also has Defunded, who was a really impressive maiden winner. But here we go. How about Rock Your World? 2 starts, 2 wins, all both on turf. But this horse, I feel like, has some dirt upside. He's super interesting in here, and he's not like a late ad. He was already going to go in the race, even with Life is Good. So I think this horse is very, very interesting. And if he wins the Santa Anita Derby, look for him to be like the buzz for the Kentucky Derby, right? Dream Shake will be in there. I think he should improve in his second route race. Peter Urton's been working him a lot firmer and trying to get him fit. He looked big and heavy last time out. I think he was maybe he was a little rotund to run that. I mean, if they asked me to run that, I would have a hard time. I'd need to definitely do a little bit more high-speed trading. So he looks like he's been training a lot more forwardly. He should be interesting. Over in Kentucky, it's the Bluegrass Stakes, a Grade 2 event. The only horse really in this field to talk about, in my opinion, is Essential Quality, last year's champion for Brad Cox. Like I said last week, he hasn't done anything wrong, right? He's a perfect 4 for 4. He just hasn't beat anybody. And I feel like this race is kind of the same thing. The field is suspect at best, so he really should win. If he doesn't win by like 5 at least, I'm gonna be like, wah, what's going on, dude? And then he's gonna go into the Derby, I feel like, a little unbattle tested, right? If he's just that much better that he's beaten this field by 5 or 6, is it great to get to be in that position? Sure, but I think that when you're talking about a really big race where some of these horses have had eyeball duels, then if you're coming in here and you're just this much the best and you've never done that, I mean, that asks for a whole another dimension. So Essential Quality in the Bluegrass should be a lock on that card. One of the most intriguing races, though, is the Wood over at Aqueduct. Brooklyn Strong, who won the Remsen, that was his debut as a 3-year-old. Wayburn, remember I talked about him like way back on episode 1? I really like this horse. I think that he's super cool. He's got a funny way of going, but him and Crowded Trade, who ran 1-2 in the Gotham, they're back in action against each other again. Chad Brown also has Risk Taking, who won the Withers, and then Prevalence. We also talked about Prevalence on this show. We thought he might go in the Florida Derby, although it was a little bit quick back because he broke his maiden on Pegasus undercard, which is in January, and then he came in to win the allowance race on, I think, Fountain of Youth Day or something like that. So they didn't want to bring him back into the Florida Derby. They gave him the extra week to the Wood. Is he still going to be a Kentucky Derby horse? I don't know. This is asking an awful lot of a horse to run, 4 times between January and May without any 2-year-old foundation. So I think that they're putting the screws in here. They chose a salty race. They chose to ship him. So he's going to be a big question mark as well. And if he wins this race, they have to be thinking about heading to Louisville then. If he gets beat, maybe they bypass and wait for the Preakness or possibly the Belmont. But are you still with me? It's been so long. Thank you guys for joining me here on this week of Stop and Smell the Roses. Hopefully we get to join you back here next week to talk about all of those races that we just previewed. And I hope that your hair looks better than my hair, because we've gotten rid of some of the confusion that's been going on with all of these preps. One more week to get through, and then we get to take a really big breath. But for now, smelling rosy over here, guys.